Good evening and a warm welcome to all. I am Mridul Mishra from the corporate communication team, and on behalf of Care Ratings, welcome you to our today's discussion on apparel industry, the problems compounding for the players. We sincerely appreciate your time in joining us for this webinar. We are indeed fortunate to assemble our esteemed guest speakers for today. Dear sirs, thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Dear participants, we'll be having a Q&A session no sooner the discussion ends. In case of any queries, you are please requested to key in your questions. Now, may I invite Mr. Deval Mitra, who is the director at Care Ratings based out of our Delhi office, to take over the proceedings, please.
Thank you, Mridul. A very warm welcome to all the participants and to our distinguished guest panelists today. And many thanks to them for taking out time for this webinar. I have the honor of introducing our first guest today, Mr. Sandeep Jain, who is Executive Director of Monte Carlo Fashions Limited, a part of the very reputed Nahar Group, which has been manufacturing and retailing apparels under the popular and much loved Monte Carlo brand. He is also the member of CII Northern Regional Council and immediate past chairman of CII Punjab State Council and executive member of the Ludhiana Management Association. Welcome to the webinar, Sandeep.
Thank you.
Our second guest panelist for today is Mr. Vineet Sood, Managing Director of Centex International Private Limited, a renowned export-focused manufacturer of high-end fashion accessories that caters for the top international fashion houses and retail chains. Many thanks for joining, Vineet, and warm welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mitra. Thank you.
So how we have planned the webinar today is that we would run through a small presentation here, and thereafter it will be followed by a panel discussion, as Mridul mentioned, with our esteemed guests, and thereafter take certain questions from the participants. So getting on with the presentation, so how we have designed the presentation is that we would touch upon the global textile and apparel industry. Then we will have an overview of the Indian textile and apparel industry with its salient features. Then we will touch upon some numbers in the Indian apparel trade. Then we would have a section on the methodologies, the rating methodologies are employed by our rating agency while rating an apparel manufacturer. Then we will look at the COVID-19 impact on the Indian apparel industry. And we will end with a snapshot of Care's portfolio of apparel manufacturers, including the rating dispersion and how the ratings have migrated. So next slide, please. So looking at the textile value chain, obviously it's a long value chain which starts off from, as we say, the fiber to fashion. Starts off from the natural and synthetic fibers, and then we have got the yarn production, the spinning and the blending processes, and then the fabric production, which includes the weaving, knitting, then the dyeing, printing, and finishing of the fabric, and then it comes to the apparel production. And with the apparel production, then it is packaged and it is sent into the distribution channels. There are intermediaries, there are branded apparel companies and overseas buying offices, and which kind of gets into the final destination, which is the departmental stores, the specialty stores, chain stores, and the online marketing channels. So what is noteworthy here is that although this particular chain is very long and it comprises of many segments, but the apparel portion, it constitutes to be more than half of the value. It constitutes more than half of the value of the entire value chain. So 55% of the value is in the apparel production and marketing. Next, please. So touching upon some of the aspects of the global textile and apparel industry, we see that various countries have got various their core competencies, and if we see US, for example, it is a major exporter of cotton, and whereas on the share of apparel exports in terms of value-added products, China is by far the leader in terms of the exports of apparel. In textile exports, again, China accounts for 38% of the textile exports. And of the overall textile and apparel exports, we see China again 34% and EU coming next at 26%. But I guess this includes a lot of re-exports which happens within EU. And then Vietnam, India, and Bangladesh are far behind. Vietnam is a country which has come up very fast over the last 1 decade, and India has been pretty much stable, or I would say stagnant, at 3 to 4% of the overall T&A exports per bucket. So global textile and apparel trade, if we see, I mean, as we see that, as we saw the the proportion of the value added is maximum in apparels. So also, if you see the proportion of apparel in the overall textile and apparel, the global textile and apparel trade, it is more than 50%. It is close to that 57%, which is almost similar to the what we saw as the value addition in the apparel segment. Here. So looking at the top 5 exporters, as we saw that the export, China has been ruling the roost as an exporter of both textiles as well as apparel, and it has grown from a share of 10. It has grown from a share of 10.3% in 2000 to 37.6% in 2018, and similarly in the exports of apparel, again China has grown from 18.2 to 31.3%. India has been a laggard in this respect, especially in the apparel. If we see the kind of numbers in terms of market share, it was at 3% in 2000, and it has just crept up to 3.3%. Whereas other competitors like China, obviously we see it gone from 18.2 to 31.3%. But smaller countries like Bangladesh and Vietnam have gone from much lower shares to much higher shares than India in apparel. If we see the Indian percentage share in the textile exports, the numbers have been slightly higher, and it has seen a reasonably faster growth, because that is basically the exports of cotton and cotton yarn, which India has been exporting more, at least in terms of relative to the other competitors. So we see that India has been a laggard as far as both exports of textile and apparel are concerned. Next slide, please. Next slide. So I'll hand over to Gaurav now to take through the Indian textile and apparel industry.
Thank you, Deval sir. Now, the total size of the Indian textile and apparel industry was at around $140 billion in FY19, out of which the apparel market size was about 65%. In the apparel space, the domestic consumption formed the majority, that is around 82%, while the remaining 18% was exported. The industry also plays an integral role in the Indian economy. It contributes 7% to the industrial output, 2.3% to the GDP, and is a major contributor to the export earnings. The industry also has a social importance attached to it, as it is the largest employer after agriculture. Next, please. Now, coming to the overview for the sector, if we see the domestic apparel market has grown at a CAGR of about 7% during FY18 to FY20, primarily on the back of increased domestic demand, while the export market has degrown by 7% during the same period. We will dwell upon the reasons for this degrowth in the subsequent part of the presentation. US, EU, UK, and UAE are the 4 large markets for India. As we'll discuss in detail a bit later, majority apparels manufactured or exported by the country are cotton-based. Because of the low capital requirement to set up a garment manufacturing unit, 90% of the companies fall under the umbrella of small and medium enterprises. The industry is highly fragmented with close to 1 lakh ready-made garment manufacturing units in India. We have 5 large clusters for these manufacturing units, which form majority of the total ready-made garment manufacturing of the country. Next, please. Now, talking about some salient features for the sector, we see that India, vis-a-vis some of the other players, has a huge raw material base and manufacturing strength across the entire value chain. It has a natural advantage of being the largest producer of cotton fiber and second largest producer of silk. On the fiber front, only China gives the competition to India. China is the largest producer of man-made fiber, wool, and silk, and the second largest producer of cotton fiber. In the spinning capacity, although China has the lead over India, but India also has the second largest spinning capacity in the world. On the weaving front, though India has the largest installed capacity of handmade weaving looms, China has the largest mill-made weaving installed capacity. In the garment manufacturing, China is the largest manufacturer and exporter of apparels, followed by Bangladesh, which is the second largest exporter of garments, and then Vietnam following it closely. Next, please. Now, this slide compares some of the critical operation parameters for the major ready-made garment manufacturers in the world. Among major garment manufacturing nations, India, Vietnam, and Cambodia have labor wages which are at par with each other, though much lower than that in China. However, Bangladesh and Ethiopia have labor prices which are even lower than those in India. Power price is the lowest in Ethiopia and highest for Cambodia. Though power is costlier in China compared to India, Bangladesh and Vietnam have power cost in close vicinity to that of in India. Coming to water consumption, it is also very high in a garment manufacturing unit. However, here India has a lead over all the other major garment producers. However, talking about the cost of funding, which is a major factor, China and Bangladesh have a huge lead over India. In the rankings for ease of doing business, China is best placed among all major ready-made garment manufacturers, followed by India and Vietnam. Next, please. Now, reckoning the importance of the sector, socially and economically, various incentives are being given by the government to promote investment. Subsidy under tough scheme, a rebate of state and central taxes and levies, and various duty drawbacks. Apart from these, in order to provide industry players with world-class infrastructure, a scheme for integrated textile parks, or SITP, was also launched by the government in 2005. Now, when we talk about the pressure on the Indian apparel exporters, we also need to see what are the reasons behind it. To begin with, India does not have a trade agreement with any major apparel importing nation. On the other hand, Bangladesh has been helped by a duty-free access to the EU markets, while Vietnam, which has increased its capacity substantially in this decade and has emerged as a major textile player, has also recently entered into an FTA with EU. On the other hand, Indian garment attracts a duty of about up to 9.6% in EU. Another thing which has constrained India's apparel export is lack of fiber neutrality. Because of a strong cotton fiber base, nearly 60% of the apparels manufactured in India are cotton-based. On the other hand, if we look at the world consumption data, cotton apparels contribute only 29% of the total apparel market. This restricts the target market for majority of the Indian apparels outside India. Next. Now, coming to some of the other reasons which make us uncompetitive on the global platforms. Although we said earlier that India has presence in the entire textile value chain, but we also have our own share of inefficiencies related to that in value chain. The most glaring inefficiency pertains to the fabric manufacturing segment. Despite being the #1 producer of cotton fiber and having the highest number of installed looms in the world, India's share in the world cotton fabric production is only about 5 to 6%, compared to 51% held by China. The situation is almost the same in man-made fabric segment as well. Now, this shows India's lack of scaling up the value chain despite having one of the largest fiber capacities. Next, please. Now, as we can see, though garment exports had an upward trajectory till FY17, the value started to decline from FY18 onwards. Low demand in some of the cheap global destinations and higher import duty imposed by UAE during FY18 were some of the reasons for the decline. Further, FY18 was also the year when GST was implemented in the country. Post GST, the incentives, especially duty drawbacks that the apparel exporter used to get, got reduced substantially, making Indian garments less competitive in the global markets. The reduction in duty drawback rates made Indian garments costlier by around 10 to 15%. In addition to this, during these years, Vietnam has scaled up its capacities and emerged as one of the major players in the textile industry. This has led to some of the market share of India moving to Vietnam. Bangladesh has also increased its market share at the expense of India, as it enjoys preferential duty access in key markets. FY20 also saw a decline of about 4% in the total garment exports from India. Factors discussed above, along with the outbreak of COVID-19, impacting the normal business movements around the globe in the last quarter of the financial year, also has led to this decline. Next. Now, as we can see from the slide, import of garments have also increased significantly post-implementation of GST in FY18. The duty structure has been more favorable for imports post-implementation of GST, which has led to imports increasing at a CAGR of about 24% during FY17 to FY20, compared to a 7% increase seen in FY15 to FY17 period. April to May period this year saw some dip in imports, but that was mainly because of COVID-related issues, lower domestic demand and disruptions caused in operations, logistics in some of the nations which exported to India. In FY17, April imports from Bangladesh stood at $170 million, which meant it has grown at a significant CAGR of about 33% during FY17 to 20. In the pre-GST scenario, import of garments attracted additional cost in the form of countervailing duties and education cess. However, in the post-GST scenario, there is no additional cost imposed on the import of garments. Import from Bangladesh also enjoy additional benefits arising from the FTA executed with India. The increasing imports of Bangladesh is a major discouraging factor for the local ready-made garment manufacturers for the reasons we discussed above. Apart from that, there are also reports that Bangladesh is using its FTA with India and is importing cheaper fabric from China, and the same is routed into India either in the form of value addition, that is apparel, or the commodity itself, that is fabric. To mitigate that risk, Customs Department has been instructed to carefully look at the origin certificates issued for such consignments by Bangladesh trade bodies. Some Indian retail brands have also shifted their sourcing to Bangladesh to take advantage of this duty structure, which has led to higher imports over the years. Now I'd like to invite Sudeep to take it ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav. Good evening, everyone. In the next part of the presentation, we'll talk about how we at CARE Ratings analyze companies in the ready-made garment segment. When we rate a particular company, we start with the valuation of the industry in which that company operates, followed by the assessment of the financials, project risk factors, and quality of management specific to that company. Apart from these, there are certain specific factors which we look at while analyzing a company engaged in apparel manufacturing. Some of these factors have been listed here. Scale of operations. Unless the company is engaged in some high-end apparel manufacturing, the profitability margins for the industry players remain low and range-bound. However, large capacities lead to optimal utilization of the mills and offer the benefits of economies of scale. This thing is viewed positively by CARE. Besides size, the expertise of a company to alter its product range in short durations also holds significant importance, especially for companies which cater to the needs of high-end fashion brands which replace their stocks every 15 to 20 days. Such companies are again viewed positively. Inventory management. We analyze the inventory holding policy of the companies we rate. Companies manufacturing against confirmed orders, fixing the prices, taking into account the prevailing raw material prices, are viewed favorably by CARE. On the other hand, players maintaining raw material inventory position higher or lower in proportion to the order book position generally bear the brunt in case of adverse fluctuations in the raw material prices. Apart from that, presence of robust supply chain management system also helps the companies to maintain their inventory position at the required level by ensuring timely raw material replenishments, taking care of the logistics, along with ensuring timely supplies to their customers. Companies which have invested in such systems are again viewed positively. Labor relation. Garmenting is a labor-intensive sector. In fact, it is the most labor-intensive segment in the entire textile value chain. Hence, adequacy of quality labor at competitive rates is viewed positively. Companies which have cordial relations with the labor community and which do not have labor union strikes happening regularly are looked at positively by CARE. Level of integration. Integration generally leads to relatively higher profitability margins owing to the presence of more number of value-added jobs in-house. For a garmenting unit, backward integration with the fabric manufacturing unit also allows it to have better control on the quality at the weaving and processing stages. Therefore, such companies are viewed favorably. Geographical diversification. Apparel manufacturers which are catering to both domestic as well as export markets can diversify the risk of sluggishness in a particular market. Further, export-oriented companies which are catering to different countries have lower country-specific risk, which leads to diversification of risk related to regulations, trade barriers, and currency fluctuations. Such companies are again viewed positively by CARE. Customer diversification. Diversified customer base helps mitigate the risk of business getting affected in case financial health of a counterparty or a few counterparties deteriorate. This holds increased importance due to cyclical nature of the textile industry, where demand is a function of overall economic health. Fiscal incentives. As we discussed earlier, the Government of India provides various fiscal incentives to companies operating in the ready-made garment industry. In addition to that, in order to promote investment in their states, certain state governments also provide fiscal incentives in the form of capital or interest subsidies to players setting units or undertaking modernization at their existing units. Due to the competitive and fragmented nature of the industry, companies which are availing of such incentives enjoy a favorable position of the companies which are not eligible for such incentives. Regulatory risk or government policies. The ready-made garment industry is governed by various central government policies or regulations, such as duties imposed on the import of various goods, change in GST rates, etc. Companies also face the risk of removal or lowering of various incentives given by the state and central governments. Hence, CARE closely monitors the key policy decisions taken by both the central government and the state governments, and also the destination countries in the export market. Finally, the liquidity position. Liquidity profile holds increased importance in the analysis of companies which are engaged in the ready-made garment industry due to the seasonal and cyclical nature of business. CARE assesses the cushion available in the working capital limits coupled with the management intent to maintain sufficient liquidity at any given point in time. Now, this liquidity can be in the form of free cash or liquid investments. CARE also closely looks at the inventory policy of the companies, as we discussed earlier also, along with the receivable position. Entities which are taking letter of credits from their clients and having export credit guarantee corporation cover are viewed positively. Moving on to the next part of our presentation, we'll discuss here the most talked about issues these days, COVID-19, and how this black swan event has impacted the Indian apparel industry. Post announcement of lockdown by the Government of India in March, domestic retail sales came to a grinding halt. To add to the woes of the ready-made garment manufacturers, international customers who were also experiencing lockdowns or restricted movements in their geographies at that time started cancelling or deferring their orders. Logistic issues also cropped up, which hampered movement of orders ready for dispatch. Cancellation of orders have led to accumulation of inventories at the manufacturer's level, which is expected to lead to inventory losses, especially for players having dedicated spring or summer collection. Fashion brands in India or fashion retailers in India are sitting on unsold inventories and are placing no or very small orders to the manufacturers as of now. It is believed that retailers will first be focusing on liquidating their existing inventories and will only start placing orders when the cash cycle starts to improve. It is also anticipated that retailers will be cutting their autumn-winter orders by more than 50%, for which orders are placed around this time only. On the top of it, GDP of two major export destinations for Indian apparel manufacture, that is the US and the EU, are expected to contract in 2020, which will further lower the demand for apparels. As we saw in the earlier slides, these two destinations accounted for more than 50% of total apparel exports from India. Also, the Indian economy is expected to contract in the year 2020, which will have a direct impact on the apparel consumption due to the cyclical nature of the industry. This, coupled with salary cuts, job losses, which Indian masses are currently experiencing, will keep the discretionary spending low and will directly impact domestic apparel sales. Now, this slide shows how exports have been affected post-outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic in India because of various reasons stated earlier. The southward trajectory, which started in the month of March, has continued till July 2020. The month of April was the most impacted month and witnessed a decline of nearly 90% in value terms compared to the same period last year. May onward, we have seen some recovery happening in the sector, but the April-July 2020 period total sales have seen a decline of around 50% compared to same period last year. Let us now discuss how this pandemic will impact various financial parameters of the companies operating in this space. Talking about the sales parameter first, recovery in the domestic market is not expected before late Q3 or early Q4. Festive season in India is expected to bring some respite, and that too only if the virus is contained to an extent by that time. Outside India, various export destinations have started opening up and have started placing orders to the Indian garment manufacturers. However, order flow is much lower compared to the last year. Hence, H1 revenue for the Indian ready-made garment manufacturers is expected to be affected significantly. The decline in domestic consumption, domestic garment consumption is expected to be around 35% in FY21, while that in the export market is expected to be around 25%. We are expecting faster recovery in the US market, which happens to be the largest export destination for India compared to European Union, because US has a relatively younger population compared to European Union, and also American public is generally associated with stronger needs to consume. On the profitability front, profitability margins are expected to remain subdued owing to less than optimal capacity utilization levels and discounts given by the manufacturers to clear off their inventories. Bad debts is another problem confronting the apparel manufacturers. Payment defaults are happening by scores of American and European companies which have shut their shops or filed for bankruptcies. JCPenney, Laura Ashley are some of the big names which have turned insolvent in the recent past. Apart from that, inventory losses for companies, especially those engaged in the manufacturing for the spring-summer season, which typically range from February to August, will further bring the profitability down. On the liquidity front, delay in the realization of debtors and accumulation of unsold inventory will keep the operating cycle elongated and lead to lowering of cash flow generated from operating activities. This will result in increased reliance of companies on the external working capital borrowings. Debt coverage indicators. Deterioration is expected in the debt coverage indicators like interest coverage ratio, term debt upon GCA, total debt upon GCA, total debt upon cash flow from operations. Now, this will be on account of lower profitability projected in absolute value terms and increased reliance on working capital borrowings. However, on the capacity front, no major capex is expected to come up in this financial year in the industry. CARE's outlook on the sector is negative. Players engaged in the manufacturing of formal wears, party wears, and fancy occasion wears are expected to be hit more severely compared to others. In the midst of this pandemic, the focus of the industry players has shifted towards products which can act as a shield to the virus. Many ready-made garment manufacturers started manufacturing new products like masks, coveralls, but that segment is not a major profit-generating avenue for these players. However, not all is gloomy over here. Every dark cloud has a silver lining. On the bright side, a number of buyers around the world are learning a lesson from this calamity and are looking for alternate production sources other than China. If you look at the country-wise import breakup for the two major apparel export destinations for India, that is US and EU, both these destinations have maximum reliance on China for their apparel needs. At the time when countries around the globe are thinking of shifting their production sources from China, this pandemic presents an opportunity for Indian manufacturers to increase its share in the global garment trade. So what does India need to do to make that happen? Now, some local apparel manufacturers have already started getting inquiries from buyers who want to shift their sourcing base from China. India needs to capitalize on this situation and present itself as a credible alternative to increase its textile and apparel export share. As we discussed earlier, India's fabric production is biased towards cotton, which is in contradiction to the world scenario, which is more inclined towards man-made fiber. However, if India needs to increase its share in the world trade, it needs to focus more on the synthetic vertical part. Apart from that, winter wear is one segment where India is not having a wide presence and an area which can be looked into. Also, government support in the form of collaboration with a major export destination for a trade agreement can also help apparel manufacturers significantly. Now we will see how the CARE's portfolio of apparel manufacturing companies look like. Talking about rating dispersion first. As we can see, nearly 2/3 of the companies rated by CARE in the ready-made garment segment are in the investment grade category, which start from BBB band, with more than half of the total in the BBB band itself. Rating migration. This is how ratings in the ready-made garment segment have moved in the last 15 months till June 2020. More than 70% of the ratings were reaffirmed, while around 9% saw rating downgrades. 15% of the total portfolio saw change in outlook, wherein majority of outlook change to negative category has happened post outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. This brings us to the end of our presentation. Thanks to all the attendees. Over to you, Mridul.
Thank you. Dear participants, we'll begin a Q&A session. In case of any queries, you are please requested to key in your questions. The panel would be taking up your queries. Hand it over to Mr. Debel in case he has some questions we put up to our guest speakers, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mridul. So I think we would like to get some valuable insights from our panelists on the situation prevailing in the sector against the backdrop of the presentation that we just saw. So my first question would obviously be regarding the prevailing situation as far as how the different the participants in the market are coping with the lockdown and the partial unlocking situation. The two of you actually represent two very different and in a sense complementing domains within the overall Indian apparel space. So maybe if I could start with Mr. Vineet, since as an exporter, you and the other exporters might have heard the rumblings of the crisis somewhat earlier. How have the exporters been coping with the crisis? Because with many large retail brands actually going belly up since the outbreak of the pandemic, how have the manufacturers been dealing with the order cancellations and payment delays and the defaults by the customers? And what are the steps being taken by the manufacturers to safeguard their interests in such exceptional times?
Yes, Mr. Debal, as a matter of fact, this whole pandemic thing unfolded over the export manufacturing in India as a surprise. Nobody was prepared for it. All together, the world started to shut down, and so did our country. So even if there was some demand in some sector, we were all shut down. There was no production here. So obviously the customers who had some kind of a demand, which was very little whatsoever. So to cope up, we had no choice but to stay put for all these months. And then by the time our retailers, of course, it's all a capitalist market where minimum investment to maximum output life cycles of the money invested. So the retailers who had a major, problem with their cash flows or their debt ratio, or the ones who were cash rich, which is a rarity, which is not all, a few percentage are doing well or reasonably well. The ones which were not doing well, they have declared bankruptcy. Now, by the time you're still in lockdown, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bankruptcies happening, which are large retailers. And the irony of this trade is that if you're dealing like you're an apparel manufacturer, your exposure is to 1 or 2 maximum buyers. And one of them goes bust, what happens to the apparel industry? So that's a huge hit. I don't think the apparel industry ever got a chance to really, think or react. And they had their debt, they had their own debts, and then they had their nobody's paying cash and immediate payments. So this is unfortunate. Somehow there are then, after the bankruptcies, they have been, after Chapter 11, they have been taken over by new investors, new lease of money. So the same thing trickles down with the manufacturers, that how much deep pockets you have, what is your debt and what is your liquidity. So very unfortunate. Somehow during this, who have been able to survive, who have been able to, despite the bankruptcies, so vendors which are critical vendors to those particular brands. Now, who could be critical vendors? Like, you need to have a USP. Either you have a scale or you have creativity, where the large retailers have protected them to say that they otherwise a bankruptcy would be an average of 5%, 5 cents to a dollar, whereas the large retailers who feel that they cannot survive, or they are the critical vendors, they paid them to continue business. So that's the real ground reality with the exporters.
Yeah, but do you think that in these times it pays to play on that creativity? It is the creative players who are going to somehow have their head above water, because they have a certain certain USP, certain thing which differentiates them. And maybe because I asked this question from you, because you have been specifically targeting, or your products have been specifically in that kind of genre. So do you think that those are the kind of players who would be best suited to tide over this crisis?
Yes, of course. If you have, as I said, you need to have a USP. Now, it could be supply chain, it could be volume and scales, because not all are able to supply to an X volume and scale within a given short period of time. These two are, unique selling, USPs. And then, of course, creativity and doing things differently. The whole question boils down to why you. Why should a customer come to you when they have choices over the others? How do you qualify over your competition? So if you are able to service that, and you are able to service your customer where their life is not possible without you, is what you have to create as why you. So that's the bottom line. Otherwise, why should they're going bankrupt because they have a high debt uh, you know to service, and they could not, and then they don't look left, right, they just won't pay you. You are unsecured debtors, and you stand there with hands up doing nothing.
Right. Mr. Sandeep, the pandemic, of course, landed slightly later in India, but it was as much a bolt from the blue, especially with the lockdown. The manufacturers being left with the spring summer inventory, as Sudeep mentioned. How was the sector? How has the sector actually managed to clear the stocks in these times? Or more specifically, how much could the manufacturers push through the online sales channels? And going forward, do you see the online sales coming up as a better alternative, and probably lesser investment by the Indian brands in physical stores would be forthcoming?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mitra. Agree with Mr. Vineet Sood. As far as this pandemic was concerned, it was unheard and unseen. Particularly if we see that, I just talk about our Monte Carlo. See, we never closed our factory more than 5 days in a year. We never closed our retail stores except Diwali and Holi. So these were the two festivals which used to close. So we never expected that the stores will be closed for months, the factories will be closed for almost 45 days. So that was one situation which was unheard of. So I think the first thing which we did to our business was, first of all, we knew that this is something which is not going to end very soon. So we started looking at all the expenditures which are routine expenditure. How can we cut those expenditure and remain efficient as far as this year goes? So, and second thing was, we just wanted to cut down our inventory, as you rightly asked, what did you do with the inventory? So we were, when the shops opened, so we were the first one to offer the discounts, and other brands were apprehensive because they were anticipating that this disease might end soon, but we knew that something strange has happened and you cannot predict about the future. So best thing is that you should get rid of your stock as early as it can be, because something which is not heard of definitely can land you into trouble if you take some later decisions. So as far as your second question is concerned, I think you talked about the online sales. Yes, we do moved some of our stocks to online. websites where we're already selling from last so many years. So when people were fearing to come out of their homes, so I think the best option they had at that point of time was to go for online purchases. So mainly, I think the consumers who were fearing to go out, and it was a need-based purchase. It was not a fashion purchase, which was happening, desire-based purchase. It was only need-based purchase. So we saw the most of the purchase which was happened was a kids wear purchase, which was happened in during that lockdown because kids were not going to school, so they were short of casual clothing, lower and bermudas and all. And similarly for men's and women's also, we saw a lot of demand coming for loungewear, for lowers and bermudas. So it's more of a casual clothing demand which came on the online website also. And also when the physical stores opened, the similar thing happened. The demand was more of casual fashion. So I think another reason why the fashion formals or fashion wear is not selling, because normally when you wear fashion, you go out to attend some weddings, to attend some public functions, to attend some birthday parties. So when you're not going to attend any of those things, definitely you're not going to buy expensive formal clothes or fashion clothes. When you're just sitting at home and going to your office and coming back to your place without meeting someone, so definitely most of the purchase is being held. And I think unless and until we have some vaccine in our place, so definitely I think the public gatherings, public functions, weddings, those things won't happen. So that will definitely dampen the mood of I would say the consumers for going for fashion clothing and fashion formals. At the same time, because of long pandemic which is going right now, it has definitely affected the purchasing power of the consumer also. So that has definitely affected the spending power, and which is I think reflecting in the consumer spends as well.
Right. So, going forward, do you expect, there will be some kind of a, change in the demand breakup itself, with, the formal wear and office wear actually, reducing its share, and more, in terms of with the work from home culture coming up, it is going to be more of this casual wear, which is going to which is going to see a higher demand, and also this athleisure kind of a segment is going to pick up. Do you see that thing coming up?
See, for short term, yes, unless and until you have the clear picture about the pandemic. If you still have fear in your mind, you still think that some lockdowns can happen again, so casual demand will definitely be there, and formal and fashion purchase won't happen. The reason I've stated earlier also, because you're not going to attend any functions and all, there are no weddings. So I think the for short term, yes, the demand will be mostly for the casual wear. And but as and when the economy starts opening, the fear recedes in the minds of the consumer, and a vaccine comes by year end or by January, as it's predicted by many countries as well as many companies in the world. So I think that fear will slowly going out of the mind, and again the same thing which was happening pre-COVID will start happening soon. And as far as leisure wear is concerned, yes, it's in demand. It's in demand from last, I think, the last 3-4 years. The reason being is that the people try to be, look at the fitness more consciously as compared to, I would say, five years back, and that trend is going to continue.
Correct. Yeah, Mr. Vineet, just coming back to you. For all the havoc that COVID-19 has created, it has also led to a watershed in the global history, as was kind of suggested in the presentation, in terms of galvanizing the rest of the world to confront China's trade supremacy in some way or the other. So textiles and apparel is, of course, one of the areas where China has enjoyed the pole position, as we have seen. But with the global apparel market agreeable to shift preference from China, in your perspective, is India, or for that matter any other nation, actually ready to replace China as the chief exporter of ready-made garments, especially after taking into account the kind of advantages China has enjoyed over decades, over the years, I would say, in terms of the economies of scale or the integration or its superior infrastructure and the government support. So how do you think, this shift, whether it will at all happen, or if so, and how fast it would happen, and if so, which country or countries would be best placed?
If we look back, that this kind of an infrastructure or supply chain or raw material controls, which is what China has excelled, and this kind of scale, speed was built overnight? No. These were a few ingredients, right ingredients, partnerships between, manufacturers and the government, investments and understanding really in depth as to what the textile industry is and what they require. So Chinese obviously did quite a few things which were right. And we have to also not forget that's a communist country. It enjoys a huge edge over, right quality, supply on time. The reliability is very, very high. And these traits put together is what made China as it stands today. It has taken 30 years to reach where they are with the right focus, right attention to building up this business, right, controlling all raw materials and value addition incentives on, better incentive. If you have a better, rather than selling fiber, you sell yarn, is a better incentive. You sell a product, is a better incentive. That's the reason we see all this data, the loom utilization, and India tends up. If you see the ratio, we land up eventually as a net yarn exporter. So right policies. I don't think any country is ready to take on that kind of an infrastructure overnight. It has to be built with the right policies, right government involvements, right space for manufacturing, willingness of both, and the disciplines. Now, we being a democratic country, for example, here in India, we are not at par on time delivery, right quality with China. It's not fair to make a comparison, but we do have our own strengths. Like we democratic, we are better on creativity, we are open-minded. We just don't follow, we don't just keep on doing the same thing repeatedly like herd, like the sheep move. So we are more open-minded. I would believe, as far as India is concerned, we should be playing to our strengths with the right partnership with the government. And if we see success stories, virtually Vietnam and Bangladesh are neck to neck. Their GDP or their exports in textile is very close by. Vietnam is 1 trillion, and their Bangladesh GDP is about 86 billion, and they're close in the textiles. So what are they? They are just like one small state in our country. So if we just think that one chief minister, one government really applies everything, why can't they do it? So the possibilities are there. Why are these countries succeeding? The biggest thing, to my understanding, Vietnam succeeding is just because of the supply chain. They share a border with China. They have ready-made things. Entrepreneurs or the businessmen with ready-made life cycles of the product are simply moving out of China to Vietnam. It's convenient, it's next door, and then they have the supply chain in place, because no manufacturing can win without supply chain, raw material, dyeing, finishing. All those things take years, and then they have that in place. So what have they done? They've done the value addition in Vietnam. So Vietnam, with their policies, with their textile savvy policies, they are growing, and we see the numbers speak for it, and so is Bangladesh. So they will continue to grow. Vietnam in that particular position will have a bigger advantage, because being next door to an established supply chain, which is China, and then close to North America.
Right. Mr. Sandeep, coming back to the domestic market, one of the major outcomes of the pandemic, and especially after the lockdown, was the severe shortage of labor, and that is, that pans across sectors. But ready-made garmenting, being the one of the most labor-intensive segments, has been severely impacted by the labor shortage. And so what is the labor situation at present at the ground level, and how do you see it actually coming up in the next few months? Are we really seeing some kind of a letup or a more comforting situation?
Yeah, actually, in the beginning, when we had lockdown, so at that time, no one was prepared. So neither the labor was prepared when the factories will open, nor we were having any assurance from anybody, from any government sources, that when the factories will start, we could hold the labor at that point of time for 10 days, 15 days. But when Prime Minister keep on extending it for next 15 days, without having a definite timeline, the labor got panicky. And also, we have many small hosiery factories here in Ludhiana. They were not able to pay labor, after 15 days, because the work was totally off. So labor went back. Labor went back in the first week of, I would say that around 10th to 15th of April, and at that point of time, there were no certainty about when the lockdown will unlock. So when the shops or when the factories will open, but the labor starts coming. I think just in the last month itself, I would say that the most of the labor which has come back is around July first week, July second week. So right now, if we talk about the labor position, I think we are running at around now 90% of the labor as compared to last year or the pre-COVID times. But this is not true for all the factories in Ludhiana. And I've heard that most of the hosiery factories in Ludhiana are working at around 50% of the labor. So still they are facing the shortage. And now we heard that most of the labor is now coming back because they could not find work at their native place also. So now they are coming back from their native places and they're reaching Ludhiana. So I think if we talk about as an industry perspective, so I think by next 10 to 15 days, we should have a labor normalcy. But the now real challenge is that where is the demand? Even if you have the labor which is coming back to your places, but the shops are still closing every 10 days or every 15 days. Now in Punjab, we have a lockdown, which is a weekend lockdown. So that is the only time people go for a shopping. And then you have a curfew from 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning, when people go out of their factories or the shops around 6 o'clock from the offices. How they will go for shopping, because 7 o'clock is the curfew. So another challenge which we will encounter now is that if their labor is there, but what factory will produce when there is nothing to be consumed by the retail outlets, or because other earlier goods are not being sold. So we are in a precarious situation where at one point, at one area, we are happy that the labor is back, but secondly, now the demand is not there. The demand is definitely very, very less, and so factories, even if they want to run 100%, they might not be able to, run at around 60 to 70% of the capacities.
Right. So we hope that these situations actually get clarified in the short term, because of course it means a lot for streamlining the manufacturing processes, and labor obviously in apparel manufacturing is one of the key ingredients. So my final set of questions is, I would say final question from my side would be to both of you, would be what is the kind of timeline for recovery that you are seeing? What is the horizon for recovery that you are seeing? And maybe again, I'll start with Mr. Vineet. Because after the 2008 financial crisis, we saw it took about 2 to 3 years for the global trade in textile and apparel to actually come back to shape. So how fast do we see the recovery happening in the post COVID-19 situation? Overall, in the overall sense, and also in the high-end apparel segment that you are catering for?
Well, the high end is gone for a long six. People will not have that dispensable. But yes, the rich will continue to remain rich. But at the same time, the answer would be that how early we are able to take out that fear factor from the general public, so that they are able to go around fearlessly, because this virus happens to be highly contagious. Now, everyone will have one's own perspective on a vaccine coming out that quickly, but that's not a debate we're going to have, because you'll see so many of them coming out and how much success and who's going to take that vaccine. The other thing is there could be other ways and means where the contagious nature of the virus is taken care. The spreading is not happening the way it is happening and multiplying now. And that's where we will now. That's $1 million question that, you know, to make a guess when will a effective vaccine or a, you know, spreading should, you know, stop. That sentiment comes back when that's going to happen, and what kind of spikes are we going to see virus over this fall season, winter season is yet to be seen. But yes, we should be taking all precautions, and recovery for every business has to be like Sandeep. Their business is fixed in a particular segment and they have a particular set of customers. For us being manufacturers, we will have to look for newer customers, press our customers to consolidate their supplies with the key vendors so that, you know, the factories are able to scale up to where we were before. So that's what, you know, what we think as of date. And the business continues to remain a bit of unstable because of the financial situation. No insurance is available, no factoring with no recourse. So all these challenges will continue.
Right. Thanks. Mr. Sandeep, so in your case, what is the kind of horizon that you put for the recovery in the domestic market? Of course, for you, obviously the main product is the Monte Carlo, the winter wear. So do you think that is something for which you have some time to prepare? And, you know, obviously the pandemic has taken its toll on both your segments, but do you think that in terms of your product category being in the winter, mostly in the winter season, would be, you know, kind of some comforting for you?
As far as our winter wear is concerned, we are very hopeful. There are two reasons for that, for us to be hopeful. One is that basically we'll be having the winter sales in the month of November, December, and January. So I think by that time, whatever prices we have right now will actually definitely come down as compared to August or June or July. So when we reach to November or December or January, definitely there will be some control in the corona, and there will be less fear in the minds of consumers. So they might start going out of their houses, and also the government may open the economy a bit more so that it raises the confidence among the consumers. So second thing why we are hopeful is that we had a very good monsoon this year. So that shows that our rural income and as far as agriculture income is concerned, that won't have much effect as far as their income is concerned. And also, whenever we have a good monsoon, it is always preceded by the good winters also. So as being in winter wear, I think that is an advantageous for us when we have a good and prolonged winter. And as we are one of the few specialized players in winter wear, so that is going to benefit us as far as our brand is concerned. So coming back to the first question you asked, how long it will take for market to recover? This is a question which is, I think, one of the most difficult questions you have asked, because no one exactly knows when this crisis will end, unless and until we have a vaccine in place. And see, what is happening is that because whenever the countries become confident, we have seen in the case of New Zealand, so they declared almost a month back that we are corona-free country, and now they have a lockdown again. Auckland is locked down for another 4 days. They also locked down 3 days back also. And then Spain announced that now we can open our resorts and hotels for UK and other European travelers. And Spain has locked down again. All the bars and restaurants have been closed. And the daily around 1,000 to 1,500 cases are coming up in Spain as well. So no country can be sure of when this corona crisis will end, unless and until we have a vaccine which can actually end this crisis. So I think by that time we have to live with it, and only what we can hope is that we should cope and we should know of art of adjusting with this crisis, and the fear which is there in the mind should come down.
Right, many thanks. Actually, I had these questions, Mr. Sandeep Jain, Mr. Vineet Sood, many thanks for your time, but we will throw open the session to question, the Q&A session for the participants. If anybody has any question, they can key in the question, and our distinguished panelists can answer those questions.
Yeah. So we have a few questions from the attendees. We have a few questions from the attendees also. Most of these have already been answered by our esteemed guest speakers. We have one question wherein they want to ask that in the light of this pandemic, can we expect some government support coming specifically for the apparel industry in the near future? Now, this could be in the form of changes in duties or tax structures, anything. Sandeep sir, if you can please throw some light on the kind of support we anticipate or we want from the government of India to help ready-made garment manufacturers which are largely catering to domestic market, and then probably we can explore the export angle from Vineet sir.
See, we have already requested the government that the GST should be brought down from 12% to 5% in case of winter wear products, as we are approaching winter, and winter garments are already very expensive as compared to summer garments, because it starts from around 1,500 to 2,000 rupees, and putting 12% duty will make it more expensive. So right now, as we are passing through a crisis where we are having a shortage of money and also the purchasing power is less, so we have requested the government the GST should be brought down to 5%. But again, it depends on the GST Council whether, because the government is also facing huge revenue shortfall as far as GST is concerned. So the request is already being given, but I'm not sure about that, whether this request is taken and the decision has been taken on this or not.
Right. Vineet sir, same question. What kind of support we expect from the government to help the exporters to tide over this exceptional industry scenario?
Well, in reality, if you ask me, we're not expecting much more than what they have given. That is the moratorium, and they have given an extension of 2 years, because as we mentioned earlier, there would be exporters who are dependent on 1 or 2 buyers and fairly large exposures, and if they go bankrupt. So this is all now, this is a whole shock situation for the entire government to look at what revenues like Sandeep rightly said, what revenues government has been able to collect. It is a huge, it's become a Rubik cube, which direction to go and what. But then, I think what government has done for MSME has been reasonably good. So, it's one to one own self, I believe.
So we have one more question. What kind of, how important does automation play a role in the near future in the light of this COVID pandemic? I mean, we have seen that, this sector is highly labor intensive, and because of this labor shortage, companies have faced problem. Can we see in the near future that companies going for automation route in this segment, more automated kind of manufacturing plants?
Automated is a high technology, high skill. Some areas it is applicable. Now it really depends what you are, who your customer is. Is the glass half full or half empty? People or the customers across the world come to India because of India's specialization in handicraft, the special skills by hand, what we are able to do. Now, to spend money, there would be many companies who could spend money on automation and be a competitor by simply spending money. But then again, question comes, why you? How are you different from others? What is that you have the others cannot offer? Is where I would focus and concentrate more. And automation is a cost, and what is the payback? It's a very subjective question. In spinning industry, there's a lot of automation which has happened, which everyone is upscaling by the day. And let's see, yes, automation in garment manufacturing with 3D simulations and sample approvals through simulations, and rather through internet and softwares. Rather sending a complete garment, they just send a soft copy, is where we see a huge benefit going forward.
Right. Rightly said, sir. And Sandeep sir, your views on the same subject?
I think automation and technology upgradation is not happening because of this crisis. It was happening long back, because you need to cut down your cost on labor, you need to cut down cost on various aspects. So wherever it was required, I think everyone is spending as per their pockets in automation. But what has changed, as Vineet has rightly mentioned, that we used to hold some trade shows. So in that case, we are depending upon like Zoom Meet and other meets where we can show online samples. And also there are areas where we have cut down our cost basically on travel expenses, as most of the things right now, as we are doing this webinar, otherwise we used to have a meeting, we have to fly down to a certain city and do the meeting. So those things actually have changed. Earlier, everyone just loves to travel. That if some meeting is there to be in Delhi, let's go to Delhi and have the meeting, come back tomorrow. All these things have gone now. You just switch on your laptop and do the meeting to anyone in the world, wherever you want, and you cut down your cost, and you cut down their cost also, and you cut down your timing also. Otherwise, you completely waste your one day just to travel to a particular place. And secondly, I think if we see that this pandemic has brought work from home culture. So some of our employees are working from home in various cities in Bombay and in Delhi also, and we have devised a system. So we have cut down their salaries also because they're working from home. So some kind of benefits this pandemic has brought, which will continue to years to come, and definitely help us in saving the cost as far as our company is concerned.
Right. Totally agree with you, sir. Thank you so much for your views, sir. Both the guest speakers. Over to you, Mridul.
Thank you, Sudeep. Thank you, Mr. Mitra and Gaurav, the care rating speakers. And thank you again, Mr. Sandeep Jain and Mr. Vineet Sood, for the interesting insights and discussion. And again, for the participants, thank you for taking your time out and being a part of this care ratings webinar. We hope the discussion was insightful and look forward to your participation in future also. For any further queries, feedback or suggestion, you are please welcome to write to us in the feedback or a comment mail, which will be coming no sooner the webinar ends. Thank you and goodbye for now.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.